This detailed example is a basic introduction to SPSS, Statistical Packages for the Social Sciences, which is a statistics software package that you can use to do statistical analysis on the computer. And so let's take a quick tour of SPSS. So first of all, how do you open SPSS? Well, if you go to your Start menu and you go to Programs, assuming that the software is installed somewhere on your computer, you should be able to find IBM SPSS Statistics. So just click on that, and I've got version 19 installed on my computer, so you can just click on that, and eventually it'll open, and the screen will look something like this. So notice that it looks somewhat like a spreadsheet. So we have basically sets of rows and columns and cells defining different variables and different records. Now, SPSS is organized into a series of pull-down menus. So for example, the File pull-down menu is something that you can use to bring in data or exit the program, or to start a new SPSS session. So let's start with the File menu, and let's go to File Open and File Open Data. Let's actually bring in some data into SPSS so we can start analyzing it. So if I go to Data, the next thing that comes up is basically the location of some SPSS dataset. And so if you have an SPSS dataset, you can now bring it in by finding it on your file system. So I've got it in a folder called Work, Courses, Statistics, Data, and let's bring in the 2002 General Social Survey data. Okay, so notice that SPSS populates my session with a set of variables and a set of records. Now, incidentally, there's actually two views in SPSS. One is called the data view, which is here. This shows you basically the raw data, the numbers corresponding to each of these different variables. And then there's something called the variable view. So if you click on this gives you some information about each of the variables in your file. So it'll give you the name, the storage type, how many decimal places, the value label, the variable label, which values are considered missing, the alignment, and then the level of measurement, although I would be careful about these levels of measurement because they're not always necessarily correct. So let's go back to the data view. What if we wanted to figure out how many records we had? Well, we could scroll down to the bottom, and we see here that we have 1,500 different records. Well, how many variables do we have? We go back to the variable view, and we scroll down. We see that we have 146 different variables. Okay, so let's go back to our raw data view and take a look at some of the other pull-down menus. So the other one is Edit. Edit basically just allows you to change some of the preferences of your SPSS session. And so I like to use one of the preferences. If you go to Options, I like to change the options so that what's listed is display names rather than display variables. And what that does basically is it uses the variable names when you're doing statistical analysis, and so it's easier to locate the variables that you need. So make sure you hit the radio button next to display names instead of just display labels, and click OK, and then click OK again. And this will just make it easier to identify variables when you're using some of the other features of SPSS, like the frequency distributions and graphs. Everything will be displayed by the variable name, which tends to be shorter than the variable label. So if we go to some of the other pull-down menus, View basically just allows you to change the view of your session, so things like status bars, toolbars, how the variables look. Data basically allows you to kind of restructure your data set, so we can do things like merge data sets, restructure them by reorganizing them, splitting files. Transform basically allows you to manipulate different variables. For example, you can recode them. You can create complex data structures like time series data. Analyze is a pull-down menu that we're actually going to be using quite a lot. And so this one is used to do analysis. One thing that we'll frequently do is something like descriptive statistics. So we're going to make frequency distributions in this course. We're going to look at crosstabs, which are bivariate tables. We're going to look at the Explore menu to create confidence intervals. We're going to use graphs to build charts and figures. Now, utilities is also something that's actually interesting. Utilities allows you to do, among other things, look at the codes of the variables. So if you go to the utilities variables, you can select one of these variables, which now appear as variable names, not variable labels, because I changed that preference. And you can see the actual coding of the variable, assuming that's been entered. So, for example, Bible. You can see that 0 is non-applicable, 1 is the Word of God, 2 is the inspired word, 3 is Book of Fables, 4 is others. So these basically define the codes for the variable Bible. We can take a look at another one, maybe something like degree. We can see the degree 0 is less than high school, 1 is high school, 2 is junior college, 3 is bachelor's, 4 is graduate. All of these other ones are not applicable, don't know, or no answer. And so we can just cancel out of that. So that's a useful feature. Add-ons are basically like additional analysis that you can do as part of the SPSS package. We're not going to use that very often. Window basically changes the view of your window, and so you can split the window if you wanted to. You can maximize or minimize windows, and then help allows you to look at sort of help topics. So you can use a tutorial to get more information. You can type in values in about to get more information on a particular feature of SPSS. As just a quick tour, let's look at some of the statistical features of SPSS. So again, if we go to Analyze, let's do a frequency distribution. And let's do a frequency distribution for some variable. Let's say the variable we want is degree. So we would just highlight the variable, move it over here to where it says Variables, and then we can click on Statistics. And we can request certain statistics that would be produced here. So we can, for example, produce a mean for degree or a mode. Let's use mode. We might want to look at like the range of the variable. So we just put little check marks next to the boxes for the statistics that we want. If we click Continue and OK, what comes up is this new window. And so this is basically our output window. Our output window includes results. And so not only did it create a frequency table for this variable, but it also created some information for the mode and the range. And so again, remembering the coding of the variable, if we go back to Utilities Variables, recall that this is coded in the following way. The mode here is 1, which is high school. So you can say that most people in the sample are having a high school degree. And we can see that 54.8% have a high school degree. So that's the highest category. And the range is 4. And so we can see that ranges from graduate to less than high school. And so there's a lot of different things that you can use SPSS to do, and it's much easier than doing calculations by hand. So it's a nice program for basically doing basic statistical analysis on the computer. Okay, in the next part of this detailed example, we're going to be looking at another data software package called PSPP. PSPP is basically an SPSS clone. Now this is a open source free software package that you can download and install on your computer. And obviously it's a lot less expensive than buying a full SPSS license, which could cost hundreds of dollars. And so it basically is made to look and feel like SPSS, but it doesn't have all the functionality. So let's first talk about like how to get PSPP on your computer. So if you just go to your internet browser and you go to a search engine, you can just type in PSPP. And one of the things that will come up is the PSPP web page. So if you just click on that web page and you scroll through it, you'll find a place where it allows you to download the software package. And I would recommend going to additional downloads and then finding the version of the software that you need for your particular operating system. So if you're using Windows, there's a version for Windows. If you're using Linux, there's a Linux version. There's also a version for Macs. So just make sure you click on the right version for your particular computer. In this case, I'm using Windows, so I would click on XP and up. And there's 32-bit and 64-bit systems. So you just have to figure out which version you need, and then you can install it on your computer. And I'm not going to go through how to do that, but you should be able to figure out how to do that on your own. Now, once you've got it installed and you open it, it's going to look something like this. So again, it kind of looks and feels like SPSS, but it's not identical to it. And so to open it, you basically just go to your program menu, and one of the folders that will be listed is PSPP. Just click on PSPP, and something like this will open up. So again, we have like a file pull-down menu, which we can use to open data. I'm going to open my GSS 2002 data. And here it brings in all of my data. So notice that it looks exactly like SPSS. So we have basically our variables and our records. And it has a variable view, it has a data view just like SPSS, has all the same pull down menus. If we wanted to look at that utilities variables menu, notice that these are written as value labels, not variable labels. And unfortunately, I don't think you can change that option like you can in SPSS. But you can just type in your variable. So let's say we wanted to type in degree to look at the coding of degree like we did in SPSS. It gives you the same coding. So again, 0 is less than high school, 1 is high school, 2 is junior college, 3 bachelor's, 4 graduate, 7 not applicable, 8 don't know, 9 is no answer. So it's going to give you a lot of the same features as SPSS. In fact, we could do some analysis. We can go to analyze, descriptive statistics, and frequencies. We can create a frequency distribution of our variable degree, highest degree earned. We just move it over here. And again, we can click on statistics. Here it's not a separate pull down menu, but you can check the values that you want. Looks like a lot of them are already checked for you here by default. So let's say that we want the mode, the range. If we wanted to, we can uncheck some of these values at the top here. So maybe we can just limit it to the ones we've selected here. It's going to create a frequency table by default, so click OK. It's going to pull up some kind of an output window. And so I've got the frequency distribution of the variable. Again, I see that 54.8% are in less than high school. That's the mode. Here it's also giving me the mean, the standard deviation, some other statistics. And so this is a nice software package that you can download and use on your own computer. And it's a nice alternative to having to use SPSS. Now, although it doesn't have all the functionality of SPSS, you can make it do a lot of the same things that you can do in SPSS. And so it's really kind of a nice package to have that will really help you with this course.